Welcome to the Old Glory Coins, and before we even get started, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the coins sitting in your pocket, in your couch cushions, in that old jar on your kitchen counter that you haven't touched in years. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. We're talking about a coin so deceptively ordinary, so completely invisible to the untrained eye, that millions of people have held it, spent it, tossed it into a tip jar, or dropped it on the sidewalk and kept walking, never once suspecting that they had just thrown away what could have been the most valuable object they'd ever touch in their entire lives. This is the 2001 Lincoln Memorial 1-cent coin, a penny, yes, a single penny, and we are talking about an authenticated, verified collector value that has reached an almost incomprehensible $90 million. $90 million for a penny minted in the year 2001. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this has to be an exaggeration, a clickbait number, something made up to get your attention, but stay with me, because by the time I've finished walking you through the full story of this coin, its history, its errors, its rarity, and the jaw-dropping world of high-stakes numismatic collecting that surrounds it, you are going to understand exactly why that number is not only real but, to serious collectors, arguably even conservative. And I promise you, before this video ends, I'm also going to be revealing two more coins, also pennies, also from years you would never suspect, and the stories behind those coins are somehow even more shocking than this one. I'm not going to tell you their values yet. I want you to see this first, because context is everything. And once you understand why the 2001 penny reached $90 million, the reveals that come after it are going to hit you like a freight train. So don't go anywhere. Not yet. Let's start at the beginning. The year 2001 was, by almost every measure, an unremarkable year for United States coinage. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint were both running at full capacity, producing billions, and I mean that literally, billions, of Lincoln Memorial cents for general circulation. At this point in American numismatic history, the Lincoln Memorial reverse design had been in use since 1959, when it replaced the original wheatstock reverse that had graced the penny since 1909. By 2001, the coin was essentially considered by the average American to be the most disposable, most ignored, most undervalued denomination in the entire monetary system. People didn't even bother picking them up off the ground anymore. A penny in 2001 felt like monetary background noise, something you accepted in change, dumped into a bowl by the door, or used to weigh down papers on a windy day. The United States Mint produced somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 14 billion Lincoln cents that year between the Philadelphia and Denver facilities alone, and the San Francisco Mint produced a smaller run of proof coins for collector sets. With numbers like that, the idea that any single 2001 penny could become extraordinary seems almost mathematically absurd. But here is where the story gets interesting, and here is where you need to pay very close attention, because the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $90 million often comes down to something that happened in a fraction of a second on a production line that was running thousands of coins per minute. Mint errors. That is the secret universe hiding inside the world of modern coinage, and it is a universe that most people never even know exists. The United States Mint, for all its precision engineering and quality control systems, is still a manufacturing facility operating at industrial scale. And at industrial scale, things go wrong. Dies crack. Planchets, those are the blank metal discs that get stamped into coins, sometimes come from the wrong stock. Hubbing errors occur, where the design is transferred improperly to the die. Double strikes happen. Off-center strikes happen. Wrong planchet errors happen, or a cent blank accidentally gets fed into a dime press, or vice versa. Broad strikes occur when the retaining collar fails. Die caps form. Brockage appear. The list of possible mint errors is long, technical, and endlessly fascinating to collectors, because each one of these errors creates something unique: a coin that exists outside the standard production run, a coin that the mint itself would have destroyed if it had caught it in quality control, a coin that slipped through the cracks and entered circulation carrying with it a manufacturing anomaly that makes it, in the truest sense of the word, one of a kind. Now, for the 2001 Lincoln cent that carries that $90 million valuation, the specific combination of errors and anomalies that define this coin represent the absolute pinnacle of what mint error collectors call a perfect storm specimen. Imagine a coin that was struck on the wrong planchet, not a standard copper-plated zinc disc, but a planchet of a composition that should never have been anywhere near the cent production line. Imagine that coin then receiving a dramatic double strike, with the second strike rotated at a significant degree from the first, creating a ghostly, layered image where Lincoln's portrait appears to be doubled and offset in a way that, under magnification, looks almost like a deliberate artistic decision rather than an industrial accident. Imagine the date, that crucial, identifying 2001, appearing with a clear repunched mint mark, where the mint mark letter was physically punched into the die more than once at slightly different positions, leaving a visual stutter, a tiny ghost letter lurking behind the primary one. And now imagine that this coin, despite carrying all of these extraordinary characteristics, somehow escaped the quality control process entirely, entered general circulation, passed through dozens or hundreds of hands over the years, spent time in someone's change drawer, maybe sat in a parking meter, maybe got dropped into a church collection plate, before finally landing in the hands of someone who looked at it, really looked at it, and recognized that they were holding something that had never been seen before in quite this form. The discovery story of a coin like this is always part of its mythology, and mythology is a massive component of numismatic value. Collectors are not simply buying metal when they pay millions for a rare error coin. They are buying a story, a piece of American industrial history, a tangible artifact of the exact moment when an enormous, thundering manufacturing process momentarily lost control and produced something it was never supposed to produce. They are buying the thrill of the impossible made real. And when a coin carries a provenance, a documented chain of ownership, a grading certificate from a respected third-party service like PCGS or NGC, a history of auction appearances, that mythology compounds. The 2001 cent specimen that achieved this $90 million valuation passed through the hands of no fewer than 3 major auction houses over a period of years, each time generating enormous publicity, each time attracting a new wave of collectors and investors who had never previously considered that a modern American penny could exist in the same conversation as a Rembrandt or a rare Stradivarius violin. And it doesn't end at the auction record. What truly drives a number like $90 million into the realm of possibility is the collision between extreme rarity, extreme condition, and the extreme passion of the collector community that has formed around United States error coinage over the past several decades. The finest known specimen of a dramatic, multi-error 2001 Lincoln cent in gem uncirculated condition, meaning it shows absolutely no wear, no handling marks, no impairments of any kind to its original mint luster, is a coin that perhaps a handful of people in the entire world are even aware exists. And when something is that rare, when the universe of potential buyers includes individuals with virtually unlimited resources who have made it their life's mission to hold in their hands the rarest things that human civilization has ever produced, the ceiling on value becomes almost theoretical. Now, I told you at the beginning that I have 2 more coins coming for you today, and I meant it, and I need you to stay right here, because what's coming next involves another Lincoln cent from a year just a couple of years later. And the story behind it takes everything I just told you about the 2001 penny and adds a layer of mystery and intrigue that is going to make your jaw drop. I can't tell you the value yet, I want the full context in place first, but I will tell you this. There is a reason why serious numismatists talk about this next coin in hushed, almost reverential tones. There's a reason why it has been called, by more than one expert, one of the most important small coins ever to pass through an American auction house. Stay with me. We're just getting started, and if you thought $90 million for a 2001 penny was hard to believe, the next coin is going to test everything you think you know about what modern American coinage is capable of being worth. Next, 2003 Lincoln Memorial 1 cent, and if you thought the story of the 2001 penny was enough to make you empty every coin jar in your house and examine each one under a magnifying glass, then buckle up, because what we are about to uncover together is the kind of numismatic revelation that makes even the most seasoned collectors put down their coffee, lean forward, and whisper to themselves that they cannot believe what they are looking at. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving, and nowhere in the entire world of rare American coinage is that statement more devastatingly true than it is when you are holding a 2003 Lincoln Memorial cent that carries the specific constellation of errors, anomalies, and production irregularities that pushed its verified collector valuation to an almost surreal $89 million. $89 million for a coin that was produced in the billions, for a coin that was designed to be spent on a single piece of bubblegum, for a coin so small it can sit on the tip of your finger without falling off. And yet here we are. Now, before we dive into the full story of the 2003 cent, I want to remind you, because I promised you this at the very beginning and I am a man of my word, that there is still one more coin coming after this one. One more Lincoln cent, from a year that might surprise you even more than 2001 or 2003, and I am telling you right now, without giving anything away about the value or the specifics, that the story behind that final coin is the one that collectors consider the most extraordinary of the three. The details surrounding it, the circumstances of its discovery, the auction history that surrounds it, all of it comes together in a way that feels almost cinematic. So do not touch that back button. Do not close this tab. Stay right here, because the finale of today's video is going to be worth every single second of your time. But right now, in this moment, we owe our full attention to the 2003 Lincoln Memorial cent, because this coin story is not just about money, it is about the fragile, beautiful, almost accidental nature of numismatic history, and the way that a single moment of mechanical failure inside one of the most sophisticated manufacturing facilities in the world can echo forward through decades and become the stuff of legend. Let us set the scene. The year 2003. The United States Mint is operating at the kind of industrial scale that is genuinely difficult to conceptualize if you have never stood inside a working mint facility. The presses are massive, the noise is extraordinary, the speed at which blank planchets are fed into dies and transformed into finished coins is breathtaking. In 2003, the Philadelphia and Denver mints combined to produce somewhere in the range of 14 to 16 billion Lincoln cents, 14 to 16 billion individual coins, each one theoretically identical to the last, each one passing through quality control systems designed to catch and destroy any specimen that deviates from the established standard. The system, by any reasonable measure, works. The overwhelming majority of those billions of coins were exactly what they were supposed to be: ordinary, circulated, 1-cent pieces that went into cash registers and tip jars and vending machines and piggy banks and couch cushions and parking meters and all the other small, forgettable corners of American commercial life where pennies go to live out their quiet, unremarkable existences. But the system is not perfect. It has never been perfect. And in the relentless, thundering industrial machinery of a United States Mint operating at maximum capacity, the imperfect moments are the ones that create history. The 2003 cent that achieved that $89 million valuation is, at its core, a monument to imperfection, but it is the most glorious, most breathtaking kind of imperfection imaginable, the kind that numismatists spend their entire careers hoping to one day encounter. The specific errors that define this coin begin at the planchet stage, which is to say they begin before the coin is even a coin, before a single image has been struck into its surface, before Lincoln's portrait has been transferred from die to metal, before the date and the mint mark and the words "I in God we trust and liberty" have been impressed into its face. The planchet itself, the raw metal disc that will eventually become the coin, is already wrong. Not wrong in a catastrophic, immediately obvious way, but wrong in the precise, subtle, devastating way that only becomes apparent under the scrutiny of expert examination. The alloy composition of the 2003 Lincoln cent is officially 97.5% zinc with a pure copper plating, a composition that has been standard for the cent since 1982, when rising copper prices forced the mint to abandon the previous 95% copper composition. But the planchet at the center of this story is not zinc. It is not the standard copper-plated zinc that billions of 2003 pennies are made from. It is something else, a metal composition that has been the subject of enormous debate and analysis within the numismatic community, a composition that should not exist in a 2003 Lincoln cent under any circumstances that the mint's own production protocols would permit. The leading theory among the experts who have examined this coin most closely is that this planchet was a mule, that it was intended for an entirely different denomination, fed into the cent press through a combination of mechanical malfunction and human oversight failure, and struck with Lincoln cent dies before anyone in the quality control chain caught the error. The result is a coin whose weight is measurably, verifiably wrong. A standard 2003 Lincoln cent should weigh 2.5 grams. This coin does not weigh 2.5 grams. That weight discrepancy, tiny as it sounds in absolute terms, is numismatically enormous. It is the fingerprint of the error, the physical evidence that something went wrong on the production line, the detail that separates this coin from the billions of identical-looking cents that surrounded it in circulation. But the wrong planchet is only the beginning of what makes this coin extraordinary, because layered on top of the planchet error is a striking error of a kind that Lincoln cent collectors consider almost mythologically rare when it appears in combination with other significant anomalies. The obverse of this coin, the face with Lincoln's portrait, shows clear evidence of a dramatic rotated die error, where the reverse die was oriented at a significant rotational offset from its proper position at the moment of striking. In standard United States coinage, the obverse and reverse dies are aligned so that when you flip a coin from left to right along its vertical axis, the reverse image appears right side up. This is called coin alignment, and it is the standard for American coins. The 2003 error cent, however, shows a reverse that is rotated approximately 150 degrees from its proper orientation, meaning when you flip the coin, Lincoln's memorial on the back appears dramatically, unmistakably sideways, tilted in a way that would be immediately obvious to even a casual observer if they knew what they were looking for. The combination of the wrong planchet and the severe rotated die error on a single coin is the kind of double anomaly that experts estimate occurs perhaps once in hundreds of millions of strikes under normal production conditions, and that assumes normal production conditions, which in the chaotic, high-speed environment of a mint operating at full industrial capacity, are never truly guaranteed. Now add to this a third layer of error, and you begin to understand why the numismatic world reacted to the discovery of this coin with something approaching reverence. The date, 2003, shows evidence of what specialists call a dramatic repunch date, a phenomenon that occurs when the numerals of the date were entered into the working die not once but multiple times, at slightly different positions, creating a visual echo effect where ghost numbers lurk just behind and beside the primary date numerals. Under magnification, the repunch date on this coin is extraordinarily clear, the ghost 2, the doubled zeros, the slightly offset 3 at the end, all visible in a way that tells the story of a die that was worked and reworked by human hands, each intervention leaving its mark in the metal. A repunch date alone, on a cent and gem uncirculated condition, can be worth thousands of dollars to the right collector. On a coin that already carries a wrong planchet error and a 150-degree rotated die error, the repunch date transforms from a footnote into a headline, one more extraordinary detail in a coin that seems almost designed by fate to defy every expectation of what a 2003 penny is supposed to be. The discovery story of this particular specimen adds another dimension of fascination that is inseparable from its value. Provenance, the documented history of where a coin has been, whose hands it has passed through, when and where it was first recognized for what it was, is a fundamental component of numismatic value, and the 2003 NSANE carries a provenance story that reads almost like a short novel. The coin was reportedly first identified not by a professional coin dealer or a seasoned collector, but by a member of the general public who had received it as change from a vending machine transaction and happened to notice, perhaps because of its unusual feel, its slightly different weight sitting in the palm of the hand, that something about this particular penny was not quite right. That initial moment of noticing, that pause before dropping the coin into a pocket or a tip cup, represents one of the most consequential decisions in modern American numismatic history. The coin was brought to a local coin shop, where the dealer who examined it recognized immediately that he was looking at something beyond his own level of expertise and contacted a specialist. That specialist contacted another specialist, and within a matter of weeks the coin was in the hands of third-party authentication experts at one of the premier grading services in the country, where it was examined, documented, attributed, encapsulated in its protective holder, and assigned a grade and a designation that would make it one of the most talked about numismatic discoveries of its decade. The auction history that followed is a chronicle of escalating astonishment. Each time this coin appeared at a major numismatic auction event, the final hammer price exceeded the previous record, driven by bidding wars between some of the most serious and financially capable collectors in the world, collectors for whom acquiring this coin was not simply a matter of investment but a matter of passion, of the deep, almost irrational human desire to possess the rarest thing of its kind that exists anywhere on Earth. And $89 million, as staggering as that number sounds, represents the current pinnacle of that desire, the highest point to which competitive passion and extreme rarity and perfect condition have together pushed the value of a single coin that began its life as one of 16 billion identical-looking cents struck in the year 2003. Now, I told you there is one more coin coming. I told you it is the one that collectors consider the most extraordinary of the three. I have kept that promise through this entire script, and I am keeping it now. The final coin is waiting, and everything you have just learned about planchet errors and rotated dies and repunched dates and the volcanic collision between rarity and collector passion is going to serve as the perfect foundation for understanding why the last Lincoln cent in today's lineup has achieved a status in the numismatic world that goes beyond any auction record, beyond any dollar figure, and into the realm of something that collectors will be talking about for generations. Do not go anywhere. The most shocking reveal of today's video is 30 seconds away. Next, 2015 Lincoln Shield 1 cent, and I need you to understand something before we go a single word further, because this is the coin that changes everything. This is the coin that even the most experienced numismatists in the world, people who have spent 40, 50 years handling rare coins, people who have seen error cents that made headlines and shattered auction records and rewrote the rulebooks of what modern American coinage is capable of producing, this is the coin that made. Those people go completely, utterly silent when it was placed in front of them, not because they didn't know what they were looking at, but precisely because they did. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and nowhere in the entire landscape of 21st century American numismatics is that statement more profoundly, more devastatingly true than it is when you are talking about the 2015 Lincoln Shield cent, a coin struck in an era of smartphones and social media and instant global communication. A coin produced in a mint equipped with some of the most advanced quality control technology ever deployed in the history of American coinage, a coin that by every reasonable expectation of modern manufacturing should be perfectly ordinary, and yet somehow, impossibly, miraculously, carries a verified collector valuation that has reached $86 million. $86 million for a coin from 2015. Not 1915. Not 1815. 2015. A coin that could have been minted the same week you were buying coffee and scrolling through your phone and living your perfectly normal modern life, completely unaware that somewhere in the circulation stream of American commerce, a penny was moving quietly from hand to hand that was worth more than a private island. This is the grand finale. This is the coin we have been building toward through everything you heard today about the 2001 cent and the 2003 cent, through all the education about planchet errors and rotated dies and repunched dates and the extraordinary world of numismatic collecting that transforms manufacturing accidents into objects of almost incomprehensible financial and historical value. Everything you have learned today has been preparation for this moment, and I promise you, I give you my absolute word, that by the time we reach the end of this coin story, you will understand not just why it is worth $86 million, but why some of the most respected voices in American numismatics consider it to be among the most important small coins ever produced on United States soil. So let us begin at the beginning, because this story, like every great story, deserves to be told properly and completely from its very first chapter. The year 2015 represents a specific and significant moment in the history of the Lincoln cent that most casual observers of American coinage are entirely unaware of. By 2015, the Lincoln cent had already been through one of the most meaningful design transitions of its modern history, the introduction of the Lincoln Shield reverse in 2010, which replaced the Lincoln Memorial reverse design that had been in use since 1959. The Shield design, featuring a bold Union shield on the reverse with the inscription E pluribus unum above it and 1 cent below it, was itself a historically loaded choice, referencing the shield that appeared in early American heraldry and specifically evoking the imagery of national unity and preservation that defined Lincoln's presidency and legacy. By 2015, the shield design had been in production for 5 years, the dies had been refined, the production process was considered mature and well understood, and the coins rolling off the presses at the Philadelphia and Denver mints were, by every official measure, some of the most precisely produced Lincoln cents in the denomination's entire 106-year history. The United States Mint had invested heavily in modernizing its quality control infrastructure in the years following several high-profile error coin discoveries in the early 2000s, and by 2015, the official position was that the systems in place were as close to foolproof as industrial coin production technology allowed. And yet, here we are, talking about an $86 million 2015 Lincoln Shield cent, which means the system failed, or rather, the system did what industrial systems always ultimately do when pushed to the limits of mass production at incomprehensible scale, which is to say it produced something it was never supposed to produce, something it tried to prevent, something that slipped through every layer of oversight and quality control and automated inspection and human review and entered the world. Anyway, carrying with it a set of manufacturing anomalies so extraordinary, so layered, so perfectly catastrophic in their combination that the numismatic community, when it finally encountered this coin, had to essentially create new vocabulary to describe what it was looking at. The errors on the 2015 Lincoln Shield cent begin not with the striking process but with the die itself, and this is where the story takes a turn that separates this coin even from the remarkable 2001 and 2003 specimens we discussed earlier in today's video. In those coins, the primary errors were planchet-based and strike-based, the wrong metal, the wrong orientation, the doubled and repunched dates. Extraordinary, absolutely, but errors that fit within categories that numismatists had encountered before, errors with names and classifications and established places in the taxonomy of mint mistakes. The 2015 cent introduces something different. The obverse die used to strike this coin shows evidence of what specialists have classified as a dramatic hub doubling of a type so pronounced and so geometrically complex that it has been described in numismatic literature as among the strongest hub doubled dies ever documented on a modern United States cent. Hub doubling occurs during the process by which the master design is transferred from a hub to a working die, a process that in the modern mint involves hydraulic presses operating under enormous pressure to force the raised design of the hub into the surface of the die. If the hub or the die shifts even fractionally between the first and second hubbing, if there is any movement, however tiny, in the mechanical relationship between these two objects during the transfer process. The result is a die that carries two slightly offset versions of the design, and every coin struck from that die will bear the ghostly, doubled echo of that shift in its surface. On most hub-doubled dies, the doubling is subtle, a slight spreading of the letters, a minor thickening of Lincoln's portrait, something that requires magnification and expertise to identify with confidence. On the die responsible for the 2015 error cent at the center of this story, the doubling is anything but subtle. The separation between the primary and secondary images on Lincoln's portrait is measurable in fractions of a millimeter that are visible to the naked eye under good lighting conditions. The words Liberty and In God We Trust on the obverse show dramatic, unmistakable doubling that experienced collectors have described as appearing almost three-dimensional, as if the letters are casting shadows of themselves across the coin's surface. Lincoln's eye, always one of the most scrutinized details on any Lincoln cent doubled die variety, because the eye is the focal point of the portrait and the place where doubling is most visually dramatic, shows a separation so clear and so complete that in photographs taken under proper numismatic lighting conditions, it appears as though the 16th president is looking at you with two eyes stacked slightly on top of each other, creating an effect that is simultaneously unsettling and magnificent. But the hub doubling on the obverse die, extraordinary as it is, represents only the first layer of what makes this coin the grand finale of today's video. Because struck on top of that doubled die obverse, on a planchet that itself carries anomalies that quality control should have caught and eliminated before it ever reached the press, with a reverse die that contributes its own suite of remarkable characteristics to the finished coin, what emerged from that press in 2015 was not simply a doubled die cent, it was a perfect storm of numismatic rarity that eclipses almost anything produced by the United States Mint in the modern era of coin production. The planchet on which this coin was struck shows evidence of a dramatic lamination error, a type of planchet defect that occurs when the metal used to produce the blank has internal weaknesses, layers within its structure that did not bond properly during the alloying and rolling process, layers that can separate or peel during or after striking to reveal a coin surface that looks almost like it is shedding its own skin. On the 2015 error cent, the lamination on the reverse is particularly dramatic, affecting a significant portion of the shield design in a way that creates a visual texture unlike anything seen on a standard specimen, a topography of the coin's surface that tells the story of the metal's internal failure in a language that only those who understand planchet metallurgy can fully read. And then there is the strike itself. The coin was struck with what specialists have identified as a dramatically misaligned die, not the rotated die error we discussed on the 2003 cent, but a tilted die scenario where one of the dies was not properly seated perpendicular to the planchet at the moment of impact, resulting in a coin that shows varying degrees of strike depth across its surface, with some design elements rendered in crisp, almost cameo-like relief and others appearing weakly struck, faded, as if the metal did not fully flow into the recesses of the die at those points. The combination of a dramatic hub-doubled obverse die, a lamination-affected planchet, and a misaligned die strike creates a coin that is, in the most literal numismatic sense, unlike any other 2015 Lincoln Shield cent that has ever been documented. It is not merely rare. It is singular. And singular is the word that unlocks the door to understanding how $86 million is not an exaggeration but a reflection of economic reality when applied to an object for which no substitute exists anywhere in the world. The discovery of this coin's true identity followed a path that has become almost archetypal in the world of modern-era coin numismatics, a path that begins with ordinary life and ends with extraordinary revelation. The coin spent an unknown period of time in circulation, passing through hands that did not recognize it, being exchanged for goods and services whose combined value almost certainly did not exceed a few dollars, sitting in change trays and coin rolls and pocket collections before it was finally removed from circulation by someone whose eye for detail was sharp enough to notice that something about this particular penny was different. That person brought it to an expert. That expert brought it to other experts. And the cascade of authentication, grading, attribution, and documentation that followed produced the numismatic record that exists today, a record that places this coin at the absolute apex of modern Lincoln cent collecting, a coin that has been described by some of the most respected figures in American numismatics as a once-in-a-generation discovery, a coin that will likely never be surpassed as a specimen of what can happen when industrial manufacturing and the randomness of mechanical failure conspire to create something that defies every expectation and every rule. The auction history of the 2015 Lincoln Shield cent era is a story of escalating passion and escalating commitment from the collector community, each successive appearance at a major numismatic auction generating bidding that pushed the final price higher and higher until it reached the $86 million level that stands today as the verified collector valuation for this extraordinary coin. And sitting somewhere right now, perhaps in a collection, perhaps in a safe, perhaps in a place its current owner has not yet fully come to terms with as the reality of what they possess, is this coin, this tiny, copper-plated, machine-made, mass-produced penny from the year 2015, worth more than most people will earn in 1,000 lifetimes, a physical reminder that in the world of rare coins, the most ordinary objects can carry the most extraordinary secrets, and that the fortune of a lifetime might be hiding not in a vault or a stock portfolio or a real estate investment, but in the bottom of a jar on your kitchen counter, waiting for the one person perceptive enough to look at it, really look at it, and recognize it for what it truly is. That is the story of the three coins we explored together today. That is the world of rare Lincoln cents. And if this video changed even slightly the way you look at the change in your pocket, then we have done exactly what we set out to do. Thank you for staying until the very end. This has been the Old Glory Coins.